Hello and welcome to CHEMS, Careers, Hacks, Engineering, Mindset and Stories. Today we have with us Anthony Chan, CEO and co-founder of Venturi Engineering Solutions, a clean tech leader driving innovation in pipeline systems, energy analytics and emissions forecasting. With a career that spans from engineering, entrepreneurship, finance and even photography, Anthony brings a unique blend of creativity and technical depth to everything he does. Thank you so much, Anthony, for
Oh,
accepting my invitation for the interview. So,
well, yeah, thanks, Sean, for having me. I'm happy to be here today.
sure.
Yeah.
So maybe let's start with who you are, what do you do, and what made you to start Venturi?
Wow. Okay. Let's go back a little bit here. So, who I am, I think I can start by saying I'm a father, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm an engineer, photographer. I'm a lot of things. I feel like a lot of ways, I'm kind of like the modern day like Renaissance man in some ways, or even just a jack of all trades and master of none sometimes, right? Um, I can say like maybe my journey as an entrepreneur, um, incidentally has started with my family. Both myself, my mom and dad, and my grandparents on both sides of the family are entrepreneurs. So when we have dinner at the dinner table, it's very natural for us to have conversations about economics, money, politics, business. So it came very normal, like to me, around the dinner table. It was until I kind of later on started talking with my friends, like what do they talk about, at home, and these topics usually don't come up. I kind of knew at that time that there's something different about my upbringing that kind of led me to this place. So, and as for Venturi, we started Venturi,
Mhm.
I believe, out of a desire for work-life balance.
Okay.
As I've been traveling for quite a bit of time as a photographer before Venturi, for about 7 years full time with my girlfriend, now my wife. We did full time photography for during that time. We traveled the world, saw a lot of things, and we enjoyed the traveling and the experience side of business.
Mhm.
And I wanted to be able to continue that with my engineering business, with Justin Adam, who's uh, my other co-founder here at Venturi. So we saw a vision here saying, there's an engineering
Mhm.
work that we can do professionally, but we can also adapt it in a way to use some of the modern technologies that we have. We
Mhm.
being able to work remotely and being able to work however, wherever, and with whoever we wanted to, and to really control the quality and the speed at which we're innovating.
So like you had mentioned about the photography business, right? So
Yes,
like
yes.
from photography to
Mhm.
like engineering, what made you to have that shift and like how did that help? Even like the photography, like did that help to get that Venturi idea or like how do you blend both of them, like creativity and technical?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think if you ask me, like that's some of the best decisions we can make is we can blend maybe the right brain and the left brain. I say, I think growing up, I was never really being exposed to the arts. I never been exposed to kind of visual design or even thinking more abstractly with painting or illustrations or even lighting.
Mm-hmm.
Um, as an engineer and even as a business person, you're kind of trying to look at the data all the time, right? But but I feel like in business, you're not really you the decisions that we make is based on intuition. Sometimes
Mm-hmm.
is also based on experience, and ultimately we're also making human decisions. And I think a human decision, has emotions behind it, and if we're able to tap into like the data side of business, but also understand kind of what intuition and kind of what your experience and what emotions are driving people's motivations behind a decision.
Mm-hmm.
I think that would make you a better entrepreneur, a better a salesman. I think a better even engineer for that matter in providing value to your clients.
Makes sense. So
Yeah.
like coming to like entrepreneurship journey.
Mhm.
So you started off with you had some knowledge from your family, but then
Mm.
when you started off you had no help and nothing. So like
Yeah.
how did you start? Like what was your challenges that you faced like in
Oh.
starting this journey,
Mhm.
especially with the engineering side, like how to get the engineering side right and everything. Like what were
Mhm.
the challenges, especially from a like, more technical and engineering side? What were the main challenges you faced?
Oh, okay. I can say maybe on the I say on the engineering side, or even on like the photography side, like
Mhm.
those challenges are somewhat the same, you believe it or not. As you can imagine, you're starting a business, you're taking a risk, you have to invest in capital into
Mm-hmm.
your people, your equipment, even software.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to have a book of clients or win a book of clients, so you
Yeah.
can actually pay for your office space and pay for your rent and pay
Yeah.
for the accounting services and whatnot too, right? And also the journey of learning is important too. Like with any business, you have to understand your finances, right? You have to understand accounting,
Amazing.
bookkeeping, your profit loss. You have to have a solid business plan.
Mm-hmm.
So those are something that all businesses have to go through. I think specifically, we're talking about like engineering and how we started Venturi. It's about building the credibility. Obviously, with engineering, it's built on safety and trust with our clients, and it takes, especially for engineers, in our field, like a lot of time and to prove their worth. That you can actually do the work and also do it over and over, time and time and again to show value. So we took a very organic approach when it came to building out our business, especially in oil and gas. Um, I think engineers are always skeptical. I think first, and then rightfully so. I think that is probably the major hurdle that we were facing.
So, like when you told oil and gas, so they are your main clients. How are you
Yes.
able to have that contact? Like, especially networking is such a big thing right now.
Yeah.
So, how are you able to build that network? Like, how are you able to have that connections and make a long-lasting connection and convert those like relationship to like customers?
Um, I, I go back to the roots. Really, comes down to relationships, right? Business comes down to building relationships. Uh, More so than transactions sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
right? You want repeat customers, you want repeat business, and you do that by building trust, and you build trust by establishing, a great relationship with your clients. And to do that, you have to be curious, you have to be empathetic, right? You have to understand their pain points, and you have to be able to discover and
Mm-hmm.
also have the patience to problem solve with them along the journey. So I think that is kind of the key to really unlocking, a successful kind of a business, and also to generate revenue and to
Amazing.
generate value for your clients as well.
Like you told the word curious, right? I've heard that a lot, like especially from my professors and everyone. Like curiosity is something which people lack. So do you think that's true? Like the right now the new grads are like as anyone. Do you think they lack curiosity?
uh, I, I don't think so, really. I think
No.
the new grads these days are actually really smart and they're really bright. If anything, they're always challenging what's there.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I see, especially with the advent of newer technologies,
Mm-hmm.
ChatGPT and other kind of data sciences. Like, we're almost made to ask better questions.
Mm-hmm.
You're prompting it. The better questions you ask, it gives you a
Yeah.
better answer. So I feel like we're no, I don't think the younger generation of people, or I don't know what it is now, is it Gen Z or Alpha,
Yeah.
whatever it is now. I think they're doing amazing. I think they're having they're very, how to say, curious, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they always challenge the status quo. A lot of the older ways of doing things,
Mm-hmm.
especially maybe with the older generation of engineers, there's an evolution in terms of and a revolution in terms of a shift in mindset of how to solve problems. I think nowadays, especially with the newer tools
Mm-hmm.
in the toolkit, in the toolbox, we're able to the younger engineers are able to help unlock maybe more potential and help our clients discover more value.
Right. So, like considering your entrepreneurship journey, like obviously there's no set roadmap. Like everyone faces their own challenges,
Yeah.
but then if you had to like have some certain steps written down, like someone who just wants to start like a startup or anything
Sure.
entrepreneurship, like if you had to give them some advice or like a roadmap, like what could it be? Just based out of your experience.
uh, but when we all like love roadmaps, um, I mean, to be honest, like one can read all
Mm-hmm.
about it, right?
True.
In like textbooks and like self help books and
Mm-hmm.
business books and um, but I think like the key really that sets a successful entrepreneur between a maybe a not so successful entrepreneur um, comes down to their ability to understand and accept failure. I I've read somewhere and also heard from my mentors that the difference between the two of them is that the successful entrepreneur has probably failed 100, maybe 500,000 more times
Mm-hmm.
than the person that's afraid to fail,
Yes.
right? So they've actually taken that, accumulated that experience, and reformulated maybe their business, reformulated the mindset. They just have more grit. They're just not
Mm-hmm.
afraid to fail anymore. They're just looking forward to that education almost,
Makes sense.
yeah, uh, for the opportunity to learn. So
Okay.
I think it comes down to the key thing really is about mindset. I know it sounds corny, it sounds like cliche, but it really comes down to like to that. Can you accept failure? Can you just get yourself back up? And can you learn from that experience, right? And just don't make the same mistake twice,
Makes
right?
sense. And like, especially education. I know you've
Mm-hmm.
studied with you're also you
Yeah.
were alumni. So like, did education and the university play a huge role in your entrepreneurship journey?
Mm, I could say that it not so much, unfortunately. Like I said, a lot of the times, right? Like there's a lot of systems in place in
Mm-hmm.
education, right? And I'm not trying to put it down. Like there's a lot of things in education that's great. It teaches you the technical skills.
Mm-hmm.
It's great for networking, right? But I don't know if they're the best at teaching you how to fail, because failing is,
Makes sense.
it's a flunking
Yeah.
grade. You get expelled or you get kicked out of school. It's almost frowned upon.
Mm.
Even as engineers, to fail, like they're talking about, like it's almost like if you fail, it's almost a safety thing as well. The mindset to not fail is very high, I think, in the engineering field. Whereas in business, right, it's important to discover, for example, product market fit, ask, questions, try product, fail fast, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's important to do these things, and a lot of the times it comes from real world experience.
Makes sense.
Yeah,
And I know, like with like when you're
hmm
going to university, you
yeah,
get certain skills. But then, is there
absolutely,
like any skills? But that's mostly related to like the chemical engineering, like
sure,
or
sure.
the engineering side.
hmm
But other than that, is there any particular skills you think the young engineers or the new grads right now need to learn? Like take it like an additional thing, like something which could help them in their job searching.
Yeah, I go back to the three C's.
Mm-hmm.
From what my mentor told me, it's competence,
Mm-hmm.
confidence, and also capital.
Okay.
So what I mean by that is competence, as in, can you actually do technical work?
Mm-hmm.
Do you understand the fundamental engineering material?
Okay.
Right? Can you actually apply it to a problem? So
Mm-hmm.
that is competence. That's what you learn from school, right? Confidence, um, it's about how you present yourself. Can you communicate,
Mm-hmm.
your ideas, your thoughts with other potentially your clients, engineers, coworkers, right?
Mm-hmm.
And try to influence
Mm-hmm.
and provide insight,
Mm-hmm.
to your conclusions. Um, so I know a lot of engineers are great
Mm-hmm.
potentially at technical work, but trying to communicate that and trying to influence and have a bigger impact around their circle,
Okay.
is a challenge. So that needs to be exercised. And I think the third one here is capital. When I say capital, I'm not talking about money. I'm talking about social capital. It's
Mm-hmm.
about your network. It's about your community. Do you spend time nurturing, building that up,
Okay.
building that trust with fellow entrepreneurs,
Mm-hmm.
engineering students, professors, folks that you might be able to help along the journey, and folks that they might be able to help you along your journey as well.
Okay.
And also, even finding your first job, I think there's a statistic out there saying like 70% of the jobs out there are actually not advertised,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
Um, and a lot of it is actually based on referrals,
Mm-hmm.
right? So if you know somebody that is looking for a certain position,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I think that information that you get will give you a step up compared to potentially the competition and other folks looking for a job.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's how the world has always worked, even in the digital age. It's
Makes sense.
um, that relationship and that
Mm-hmm.
trust you built over time would pay dividends.
So like, and even like you spoke about data because I know data is very
Yeah.
important for you. Like you
hmm
told about your company and data. So like
Yeah.
coming to the data part. So like, what skills would you need? Which is like something which they need to learn, like more technical skills, like is like coding. Is that something which is important? Like even just being any engineer, like let it be mechanical or chemical, having that engineering side and having
hmm
some data skills, is it important?
Yes, I think so. Absolutely, in this day and age, it's becoming more and more important because the the volume and the frequency of data coming through from pressure transmitters, whatever, like flow transmitters, densitometers, like equipment that monitor industrial processes. They're getting so much better than it was back then. And a lot of the time, this data out there is untapped. It's sit in silos. It gets collected, but some of the value comes from unlocking that data in these silos, and how do you actually bridge these connections together with other pieces of data, maybe through time or maybe with so temporally with other data points in your system,
Okay.
right? Being able to navigate huge amounts of data, so knowing how to. I'm thinking back in the day when Excel spreadsheets were kind of the norm to work on data points and try to visualize. I don't think is fast enough or good enough or computationally efficient enough
Okay.
for us to decipher what the conclusions are or provide insight. So we're talking about newer tools these days, like using Python, maybe using R, using visualization platforms like maybe Tableau or Power BI. I think those are almost like fundamental skills coming out into the workforce now because our the industrial processes and systems are improving at such a rapid pace. Having the ability to not only understand the engineering first principles, but also being able to visualize what's happening in your system and making decisions, predictions potentially from that becomes a game changer for most companies.
Makes sense. So, owning a business, you've been on the hiring side,
Yeah.
so you've seen like a lot of people sending their resumes and
Yeah.
like cover letters and like reaching out to you on LinkedIn. Is there like one critical piece of advice or anything that you would recommend them to do? Like obviously a lot of people do it. Like they would send their resumes, like cover
Sure.
letters to people like hiring. But
Mhm.
is there something which you could tell which will make them stand out of the box? Like do this something, like it gives you that importance, like something which will make them stand out. Like anything, any advice for that?
Yeah, I think so. I'm gonna maybe just go back to a few things I talked about there. So, as much as it's tempting, I think to spend so many hours on your resume and trying to touch it up and try to do these things and make it perfect, right? It's only going to hit 30% of the job available, I think, in the market. So think about that, right? You spend all this effort in doing this part of it. I mean, it's not saying it's not important; it's important. But if you only spend maybe 100% of your time going for 30% of the jobs out there, I don't think that's a very wise use of your time, right? Spending time to potentially, let's say, volunteer in your engineering society, or maybe go and volunteer for a big outreach programs. Maybe spending time just to go to a free pizza dinner, industry mixer. I think those are important things. Not only I think is it better for your mental health to have just conversations with people, right, and relate to different people. I think building these relationships, going back to the social capital part, I think a lot of people ignore, maybe miss the mark on. So I think that's number one.
Okay.
Right? Focus on that. That gives you access to maybe 100% of, I'm not saying 100, but more percentage of the jobs available out there.
Okay.
Secondly, I think it's important for engineering students to look into tools like ChatGPT, Python, R. How do we actually use the data and how do we actually manipulate it in forms like how do you manipulate in databases? How do you actually compute with it? So that I think the education system and also maybe the academic programs, I think they're falling a little bit behind when it comes to what industry desires are and skills and needs are. So getting ahead of that, getting like at least going for maybe a Coursera certification, or maybe getting a Udemy certification in Python. Or potentially building a small portfolio in GitHub to demonstrate that you have some capacity and capabilities to actually work with data in front of your potential employers. I think that demonstrates initiative on your part and recognizing what's important in an industry.
Like something just beyond your resume, like something
Absolutely.
extra. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. That's all I had for today. Thank you so much for
You're
your time.
welcome. Yeah.